What is the difference between being self-employed and a business owner? Maybe you understand what that is to a degree. It took me many years to really understand the full extent of how different those are. And to really succeed as an entrepreneur, my belief is that it's more important to transition from self-employed to business owner. So that's the purpose of this episode, to really highlight the differences way more and to know the steps you can take to make that transition more complete. Okay, so we're going to start out with the simple definition, and then I'm going to go into several different kind of philosophies or differences so that by the end of this video, you'll have a clear understanding of the difference. So a simple definition of being self-employed. You are the boss, but you are basically the employee for your own company, and you wear many different hats. So the simple example is, let's say you are a cook in a restaurant, you're an employee for someone else's restaurant, and you decide to go out on your own. You open up your own restaurant. Now you're the cook, but now you're the waiter, you're the busboy, you've got to do the bookkeeping, you've got to do payroll. So the transition from self-employed to business owner is when you can hire other people. You hire other cooks, you hire other waiters and waitresses, you hire the receptionist, you hire the custodial team. When you get to the point where your business runs independent of you, so let's say you are the owner of the restaurant, but you didn't have to show up. So the managers and all the rest of the team, they take care of the customers and the food and everything, and you stand back and you make profit. That's when you're a 100% business owner. So it may sound cut and dry that, ooh, if I go down this road, I'm going to be self-employed, and if I go down the other road, I'm going to be a business owner. I've learned that it's actually a process. When we start our own company, we start out as self-employed, and the more hats we take off by creating systems and handing those hats to somebody else by hiring them to run that system, we take steps to become a business owner. Now, I have to admit a bias. I am so biased towards being a business owner versus being self-employed. Maybe you've heard that bias come through. The reason I have that bias is really what drives me. My purpose is about the influence that we can have, about the freedom that we can have, the legacy that we can create, the impact that we can make. It's not about just being our own boss and not being employed by someone else. I have tons of respect for people who choose to be employees and don't have this entrepreneurial drive. I love encouraging entrepreneurship, but I would never wish entrepreneurship on somebody if they were to become self-employed. I think back to my original career plan. I thought I wanted to be a dentist. I got a degree in human biology. I was starting to apply to dental schools. I'm so glad that first time around I didn't get accepted. And I'm so glad I learned the difference. I read the book Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. I learned the difference between self-employed and business owner, and the lights turned on and I realized, I don't want to be self-employed. I love the business side of it. It's not the medical side of it that I'm drawn to. And I was able to make that pivot and learn. And so I did start out as self-employed, but in a career where I could make that transition pretty quickly to start becoming more of a business owner. So let's talk about some of the advantages of being a business owner. One is scalability. When you're self-employed, there's only so much that you can do. But when you're a business owner, you can scale, you can grow, you can build systems, and you can hire a team to run those systems, and there's really no limit to how big you can grow and how much impact you can have. I want to talk about risk for a minute, and I think a lot of people stay as self-employed because they're risk averse, but in my mind, that's the most risky type of business because everything is on your shoulders. When I'm a business owner and I'm working on my business and I'm observing and I'm teaching and I'm training and I'm creating systems, I get to observe the whole picture and see where we're going versus when I'm in the trenches and I'm mostly an employee of my own company. I'm just doing a role. I'm doing it day in and day out, and I don't know if I'm putting enough attention into marketing or to all the other aspects of my business. Here is a big one: creation and innovation. When you start your own business, even if you're self-employed, that creation phase, that's the exciting part. We're stepping out on our own. We get to give our company its own name. We get to decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do things differently than what we've seen before. But as soon as we start working out as our own employee, we're just in the trenches doing the daily work, and we stop creating, we stop innovating. But when you're a business owner, that's 100% of what you're doing. You are the creator, you are the innovator. That is your job, that is your job description. So an obvious difference between self-employed and business owner typically means we hire a lot more people, we build a much bigger team. And with that, there's leadership development. I've made a lot of mistakes as a leader, but through mistakes, I learn and I grow and I improve. Some mistakes are bad, and I wish I wouldn't have made those mistakes and lost that team member or something like that. But I learn, and I learn better ways to make better opportunities or better choices. It's one of the greatest things that I love about entrepreneurship is it's like an accelerator program for personal development. And I'll wrap up by talking about something I kind of mentioned earlier, and that's impact and legacy. That's why I'm so purpose-driven about being a business owner versus being self-employed, because you really get to create something that will last. You get to create an impact and have a legacy. So when I started out, I was mostly self-employed, and if I would have stayed on that journey, I had a profitable business just doing website design and whatnot, but I pivoted and made a whole bunch of changes in my business, and I figured out a YouTube strategy. And I love this. I love that I could create and continue to innovate and find ways to help my clients get more and more results. So today, I've helped many dozens of clients generate additional 7 figures of revenue in their business because of this very YouTube strategy. Now, it took me 2 years to write this book, but I want to give this book to you as my gift. As long as you cover the costs, no profit to me, this is my gift to you, and you'll learn how to leverage YouTube in an organic way to generate 7 figures of revenue in your business organically. Go to natesyoutubebook.com. We'll see you there.